Nature gives us things to protect ourselves, like elderberries. Nature's Way combines these with vitamin C and zinc for immune support inspired by nature. Nature's Way.
Powerful rewards and become part of the eons-old story of the Winter Sekima. There are also significant in-game changes coming alongside Mirage, including a progression of the in-game storyline, a new in-game Atlas system, and as always, new rewards to match. After that, we want to talk about the slew of new Holy Templar skills and supports, as well as an additional Ascendancy class option added to the Scion, which some of you may find familiar. Next, we'll cover our new supporter packs, and then lastly, have a live Q&A session, where Ziggy D will ask Path of Exile game director Mark, as well as game designer Octavian, your questions from Twitch chat. After the livestream, we'll drop the full patch notes at 11 AM NZT or 2 PM PST. So let's get started. I'll hand things over to Mark to introduce the new league.
Hi, I'm Mark Roberts, game director on Path of Exile. In Path of Exile Mirage, you'll be taking on the Ufarud, a sect of desert-dwelling necromancers who have lingered in the shadows for centuries. They are outcasts of outcasts, with no home or promised land. Instead, they seek their sovereignty through darker means. The Ufarud have captured the souls of Jinn throughout Rayclast. They are killing them, sapping their energies for purposes unknown. You must fight your way past the Ufarud's necromantic creations to find the captive Jinn. Here, Varashta, an ancient Marikith sorceress, has been doing what she can to protect the Jinn, but she needs your help to free them. After successfully defeating them, you will then be asked by Varashta to enter the Astral Realm and break the tether trapping the Jinn there. This gate to the Astral Realm is a mirage, an imperfect copy of the area around the captured Jinn. Now, when we say an imperfect copy, we mean that quite literally. Hold tight, because this league mechanic has some serious implications for juicing areas. We'll get to that in a moment. Varashta can augment the magic of the Mirage further, as she allows you to enter, giving you the option to choose one of 3 wishes before you do so.
What is your desire?
These wishes are modifiers that will apply to the Mirage area, and have some pretty potent outcomes. There are wishes that grant extra rewards, such as the wish for glyphs, which causes all portal and wisdom scrolls in the Mirage to instead drop as other currencies. Or wishes that will spawn rewarding enemies, such as the wish for avarice, which replaces a number of packs in the area with gilded enemies that convert their equipment drops to gold.
So they did, they stole the
and
same
wishes that can
system
grant
the
you
last
extreme
uses.
power while inside the Mirage, such as the wish for souls or the wish for godhood, which allow you to consume the souls of your enemies or make you completely unkillable, while within the Mirage, of course. Each wish is also marked with the sigil of one of 3 powerful Jinn: the Sand Jinn, Fire Jinn, or Water Jinn. Depending on the sigil chosen, monsters within the affected Mirage will have a small chance to drop one of 3 new coin currencies: a coin of knowledge, coin of power, or coin of skill. Each of these coins can be used on a max-leveled skill gem, corrupting it and augmenting it with a random support that matches the color of the coin used. Only one skill that is imbued this way can be socketed into a given equipment item at a time, meaning you cannot have 2 imbued skill gems in your body armor, as an example.
Choose what you wish.
That's one of the rewards, but let's get back to the area-to-area mechanic.
Yeah, they're juice and skill gems.
Once you've made your choice of wish, enter the Mirage and fight your way through the monsters and astral hazards to find the tether holding the Jinn. Shatter this chain to free the Jinn, step by step weakening whatever dark plans the Ufarud may have for Rayclast. Wishes are not the only value a Mirage has to offer to an enterprising exile. As we mentioned earlier, Mirages are an imperfect copy of the area the Jinn occupies in Rayclast, and it will copy almost anything, as long as it's within the domain of the Jinn. Mirages created from an endgame map, for instance, will have all Scarab, Atlas, and map modifiers the area had.
Ooh.
Mirages created next to a strongbox will have a new strongbox ready for you to open.
That's sick. So it's
Blights can be defended again.
duplication shrine, basically.
Legions fought once more, and so on. Effectively, you get a portion of your map to play a second time, and everything you did to enhance the content of that map applies in the Mirage too. These recreated copies of League mechanics, however, have been warped into reality by the power of the Mirage. And this has some side effects. For one, a recreation may not be perfect. The factions of a Legion may differ from the one the Mirage copied. Or, the variety of strongboxes may change. More importantly, the mechanic may be empowered, with new threats and rewards that are customized to each mechanic and are only available when doing that mechanic in the Mirage. For example, ultimatums recreated in Mirages will have new threatening modifiers added to the usual pool. Restless Ground can raise slain enemies to fight again, or Quicksand will grasp at your ankles. As a reward for these new threats, Mirage ultimatums can provide the new Sinistral or Dextral catalysts. These catalyze jewelry with increased effect of either prefix or suffix modifiers. As you can imagine, there's a lot of potential here.
You can buff the prefixes
Another example
of
is that
items?
Kalgurin ore recreated in the Mirage has a chance to be replaced by a Thaumaturgic Hourglass, a powerful magical device that your Kalgurin friends can mine in order to obtain vast quantities of Thaumaturgic dust. Blight encounters recreated in Mirages have
It
one
said
of their
lots
lanes
of
replaced by
thermaturgical
upper
dust,
root
and that
enemies.
just gave
infested
21,000.
with
You
blight.
get more than that from disenchanting one unique
This
item,
lane can
but
reward a new base type, the Cord Belt. The implicit of this belt allows it to be anointed, causing it to grant a passive tree notable of your choosing.
ooh, you can anoint belts now?
As a
Shit.
quick note, Imprisoned Djinn will generally be near the content they can empower in the Mirages, so you don't need to worry too much about getting lucky with where your content generates in an area. As the campaign doesn't generally contain too much additional League content for the Mirages to empower, we've gone and added a whole bunch that will force spawn near the Djinn, so your campaign experience will double down on being more action-packed and rewarding.
Ruthless League 2.0.
Now, of course, if you're traveling through Mirages, encountering new enemies, and slaying them, you can expect to find some new uniques. The Ufarud are not only torturers, but thieves, and have over the centuries stolen away priceless Maraketh artifacts. Using their powers of rot and disease, they have twisted these items to suit their own purposes. Flesh Render is one such artifact, an ancient and exquisite Maraketh blade that has been tarnished and befouled.
Inflicts 3
Its
additional
rusted and
poisons
jagged
on the
edge
same
is
target
perfect for
when you
poisoning
inflict
and
poisons with
withering
this
your
weapon.
enemies.
Bro,
However, Varashta
that
has in
is
her
gonna be
command the power
busted.
to restore these once lost Maraketh treasures to their former glory. Acquiring a coin of restoration by slaying monsters in Mirages allows any unique obtained from the Ufarud to be transformed into its Maraketh counterpart, its glorious original form. Flesh Render, for example,
Bro.
transforms into Sky Sunder, the original Maraketh blade that radiates with the glowing heat of the desert sun. When you ignite monsters, Sky Sunder reflects that ignite back to you, which proliferates to nearby enemies in a massive area.
Cast when stun weapon.
If
Cast
you
when
meddle
stun
with the
weapon.
affairs of the Ufarud for too long, though, you may draw the ire of the Mirage League's new in-game boss, Suresh of the Weeping Black. Suresh also has a set of powerful, exclusive items. Yours for the taking, if you're able to defeat him. So that's the Mirage League. Now, to face all the new evils, you might want some righteous skills. Some holy skills. In 328, you'll have access to a slew of new options to bring divine devastation and return the faithless to their rightful graves. We're also introducing some supports to go with them, as well as some new transfigured gems. Let's go over a few examples. With Holy Hammers, you slam the ground to call down a Hammer of Justice from the sky. If this hits an enemy, an additional Holy Hammer will cascade forwards, which itself can further cascade, and so forth. Expending a power charge when using the skill will call down an additional 2 hammers, which can also cause cascading slams. The more numerous your foes, the more instruments of Holy Judgment.
Okay.
Sweep is an old skill. In fact, it is so old that it's one of the very first skills ever implemented in Path of Exile, over 15 years ago. It's been long overdue for some attention. With 328, it has been reworked into Holy Sweep. This skill converts some of your physical damage to lightning, with shiny new effects to match. Some enemies struck by the initial sweep will have hammers of light batter them from above. These hammers cause area damage where they land, so clustered enemies are demolished by repeated impacts. When successfully hitting an enemy with Holy Strike, you'll summon forth a floating holy armament, a glowing mace that follows you closely. These weapons are minions, and will attack with Holy Strike themselves whenever you do. These holy armaments will copy the stats of your main hand weapon to deal their damage.
Oh my Lanta, that's like Holy Relic
Stand
on
against your foes with Shield of
crack.
Light, a retaliation skill which will allow you to unleash a cone of holy light upon enemies after blocking a hit with your shield. Additional cones of light will also pour forth from your nearby allies when you hit with the skill, allowing you to recruit your holy army to create purging light. Divine Blast emits a beam
Why
of
would
holy
it
light
be a
from your
bad
shield,
league to go cast when
coalescing
stunned?
into a hovering ball of energy. A few moments later, this unstable orb bursts, exploding outward with divine power. Hallow supports melee attacks, causing them to inflict a new debuff, Hallowing Flame. Hallowing Flame builds up as charges on enemies, getting consumed when attacked. Consuming a stack of Hallowing Flame gives the attack that consumed it a significant amount of extra fire damage, but only those who did not inflict the Hallowing Flame are able to consume it. Perfect for those of you who enjoy a more supportive playstyle with your army of Holy Sentinels. Or friends, when they're online. We've also added sources of this debuff to a number of other places, such as unique items, cluster jewels, and the Guardian Ascendancy class. We also have another batch of new transfigured gems, with many
New
of these
gems,
being
let's go.
variants for gems which previously had none. One example is the Shockwave Totem of Authority, which casts its higher damage dealing Nova at your location instead of its own.
That's nice.
You might also enjoy Orb of Storms of Squalls. These storms warp directly to targets when you use lightning skills, and arc lightning upon doing so. This gives you a mobile storm of destruction that follows you as you dive into battle. We'll leave the rest of the transfigured skills for you to comb through in the patch notes. Speaking of the patch notes, as always, we love to shake up the meta, so we've done a bunch of balance adjustments to a few other things as well, such as a pass on bloodline classes, expanded the passives available to the Templar section of the passive tree, and various improvements to existing holy themed skills such as Static Strike, Holy Flame Totem,
What about Holy Relic?
and Dominating Blow. We're also doing our usual improvement to some of the least played Ascendancy classes, this time with a focus on Guardian and Warden. Speaking of Ascendancies, let's talk about the Scion and her new Reliquarian Ascendancy class. For those that have played the Legacy of Frisia events, this class will seem familiar. The Reliquarian is a learned Scion that has studied history at the Oriath Academy. She is a part of a secret society of Oriathans, dedicated to collecting and discerning the strange properties of unique items. All of her passive powers come from these unique items, found from throughout Rayclast. After ascending, first select the power of a unique armor. Victario's influence increases the level of all your auras and gives them a much larger area of effect. Or instead, take Kilowava's Bluster, giving you a chance to have extreme elemental resistance against incoming hits. Next, pick from a unique weapon power. Widow Hail greatly increases the bonuses gained from your quiver. Or Martyr's Teaching, which causes your minions' critical strike chance with attacks to be equal to your main hand weapons. Lastly, pick your Crown Jewel, a unique jewelry power. Astral Projector causes Nova spells to cast from enemies rather than from yourself. Or take Astramentus, simply giving you a huge boost to all your attributes. Due to all the ways you can mix and match unique powers, the Reliquarian has more flexibility in how you build it compared to any other Ascendancy class in the game. Our plan going forward is for the Reliquarian to not be a static Ascendancy class, and between each expansion, the unique powers which are offered will change. If you don't like what she offers this expansion, hopefully she'll have the power of your favorite unique item in the next one. Time to move on to the endgame. With this expansion, we are aiming to liven up the endgame, giving players new experiences, strategies to leverage, and streamlining or removing the more frustrating tasks. Extensive changes will be coming to the Atlas and how you engage with maps, without interfering with the beloved core experience that has made mapping so successful. In the last few endgame updates, you experienced Zana's story, how she helped defeat the Elder, tried to stop exiles from going mad in the Atlas, and faced new threats pouring forth from it. In the most recent expansion, she eventually realized that there was only one way forward: to destroy the Atlas. Zana's recent actions have now weakened the already strained and tattered edges of its realities, reshaping how we interact with the Atlas entirely. To explain how this changes your interactions with the Atlas,
That looks sick.
we first want to establish some context while having a bit of a trip down memory lane. 27 expansions ago, back in Path of Exile 3.1.0, The War for the Atlas, we had a mechanic on the Atlas where the Shaper and Elder were engaged in war. This manifested as influence regions on the Atlas that affected specific maps. The ever-changing influence regions made the Atlas feel more like a physically connected space, rather than just a fancy way of visualizing a checklist of completed maps. However, one of the main frustrations with this mechanic was that you constantly needed many different specific maps in order to manipulate the influenced regions.
You don't like the Atlas?
We
I love
realized
the
we'd
Atlas.
love to again have mechanics that manifest physically on your Atlas, but we'd have to address the issue of always needing those specific maps. The first major change we'll be making to solve this is divorcing map items from specific areas. As an example, instead of having a Mesa map, you will now find, say, a Tier 10 map. To open a Mesa map now, just locate and select Mesa on your Atlas, put in your map item, click Activate, and you're good to go. That Mesa may drop a Tier 11 map. You can then immediately return to your map device, which will default to the last map run, and then run it again. Or choose a new map to use it on. It's your choice. This is one of the many benefits to this change, which is that if you're the type of player who enjoys chaining the same map over and over, or the type of player who prefers to jump around, it is equally easy to do either strategy or even switch between them at a moment's notice. For example, if one day you're farming burial chambers, hoping to eventually get a headhunter from divination cards, and you decide you need a change of rhythm, you can seamlessly swap to your boss farming Atlas tree and spam Mesa for peak boss killing efficiency. Up until now, this would have required having some Mesa maps stashed, setting all your favorite maps to Mesa, or doing a whole bunch of trading. You'll also notice that the structure of the Atlas has changed. If you haven't played in a while, Here's a look at it before and after. You will now begin at the center of the atlas, with each corner housing one of 4 voidstone slots. In addition, all content accessed from your map device now exists physically on the atlas, so you can see everything available in the endgame as you reveal the Fog of War. This also means that all unique maps are now present on the atlas, including some old favorites that are appearing for the first time. Don't worry though, you don't need to complete Hall of Grandmasters every league. You now gain 1 atlas skill point per unique map completed, up to a maximum of 10. Given there are around 20 unique maps, you only need to complete the half you want, if you can get your hands on them. Note, you aren't losing any atlas skill points. These have been moved to new places, and actually, you can get more than before. Due to Zana's actions, Egan now has a new goal and is determined to stop Zana's destruction by making use of a mysterious new discovery, arcane astrolabes. Zana is currently traversing the threads that weave the atlas together, severing them. With these new astrolabes, Egan is able to trace her movement, but using them causes dangerous side effects. When you use an astrolabe on a map on the atlas, a shaped region will manifest itself in that quadrant, affecting many of the maps within it. There are many different kinds of astrolabes, and they apply different types of shaped regions. For example, an abyssal region, which causes all the maps to have an additional abyss. Or a blighted region, which adds a blight encounter.
That'll be good. You like blight.
Completing the content added by the astrolabe will remove the shaped region's influence from that map. Upon doing so, every other map remaining in the shaped region will gain an additional modifier. This means as you progress through the shaped region, maps you run will become more and more intense.
They weren't kidding
with the
about the
relevant mechanics
juice,
getting more
goddamn.
and more juiced. Finally, at the end of the region of maps, once you have successfully rid the atlas of the shaped region, Egan will take you to one of 4 memory vaults, where there are powerful rewards to be had. He cares only for the knowledge hidden within that vault, so any items are yours for the taking. Each vault is associated with a specific quadrant on the atlas, so you're able to target a certain vault if you're wanting to try get a specific type of reward.
Yo.
One such vault is the Archon's Vault, where you'll be rewarded with powerful unique items. Or the Zealot's Vault, to acquire valuable currency items. This new shaped region system is one that promotes running many different maps. But for players that want to engage with this new system while still wanting to run the same map over and over again, the synthesized stability keystone on the Atlas tree enables exactly that. With all the new endgame changes, we thought it would be also good to mention some handy tips and tricks for quickly navigating the new Atlas. When using the map device, the Atlas defaults to your previously run map, so running the same map over and over is as few clicks as possible. You can right-click unique maps or map fragments in your inventory to automatically open your atlas to that location with the map already placed and ready to run. When you select a special area that requires multiple items, such as to fight at Zeri or open the Domain of Timeless Conflict, if you have the fragments to access that in your inventory, it will automatically add them to the map device in the right spot. That's the core of the new endgame. But there's a lot more endgame changes coming in 3.28. Let's blast through them. Over the last few expansions, we've been working on streamlining the mapping experience. And we wanted to continue to minimize busy work so you can spend more time doing what you love, killing monsters and getting loot. To that end, we've made a number of changes. We won't get into too much detail, but here's a quick summary of what you can expect to have received adjustment. We've removed cartographer's chisels and map device crafts entirely. The loss of content and loot here has been compensated for in other places. Voidstones now grant special global bonuses while socketed on your atlas, including adding the new Originator Voidstone, which enables specific atlas bosses to drop exceptional supports. We'll elaborate more on that in the next section. T17 maps as you know it have effectively been removed. The bosses have been kept around, and they better fulfill their original purpose of being a gateway to target farm uber pinnacle bosses. The most annoying modifiers on Originator maps have been removed or replaced. No more getting turned into a slug for simply using skills. And no more will you be incapable of dealing damage periodically.
Let's go, dude.
Petal skills in Originator maps have been removed. However, some of their effects are now available from the altars and memory threads. Memory tears, instead of adding a memory thread to your atlas, will now drop an itemized version of that thread, allowing you to save it for later or trade it at your leisure. We've added new scarabs, such as this Expedition Scarab of Infusion, which can generate some truly tempting logbooks.
Ooh, let's go, dude.
And for those of you looking to take on the ultimate one-on-one fight, the Anarchy Scarab of the Exceptional will place a true antagonist level rogue exile threat in your map. Empowered by every type of Wildwood Wisp, possessed by a tormented spirit, augmented with rare monster modifiers, and affected by a shrine, this exile is not to be trifled with. Alongside that, we've also changed some, such as the Beyond Scarab of Resurgence, which now causes all 3 Beyond bosses to appear when a Beyond boss would spawn in your map. On top of that, we've made improvements to a number of weak Atlas Tree passives, such as Pillage and Plunder, which now grants a chance for items dropped by Syndicate members to have a Fractured Veiled mod.
A Fractured Veiled mod?
Check out the new The Path's
Jesus.
Not Taken Keystone, which means your
Bro.
maps on average will drop twice as many divination cards. But which ones can drop will be a mystery.
Double.
And last,
Oh my
but not
Lanta.
least, we've also made some changes to King's March shipping, such as we've swapped the rewards given by sending ore and crops. I wonder what this new port will send back.
Oh, so they changed
Ports
it.
will now give more rewards for favored resources, and you can even re-roll them for gold, if they're not offering what you're after. Specific ports will now reward specific tattoos and rune grafts, making it easier to target the ones you want.
No, that sounds like a shit change.
Not to mention, the Kalgurans have discovered several new powerful rune grafts for you to get your hands on, such as
So you
the
can't
Rune
do the
Graft of
50
Fury,
million shipment
which
method
causes
anymore.
you to gain rage on using a life flask, and the Rune Graft of Resurgence, which causes Arcane Surge to also grant life regeneration. We mentioned earlier about the Originator Voidstone enabling access to exceptional supports. So let's get into that, as there's a decent amount to cover. After defeating the incarnations of Fear, Neglect, and Dread, you will obtain the Originator Voidstone. As mentioned earlier, this Voidstone allows new, exceptional support gems to drop from many bosses across the Atlas. These new supports are an improvement over the old Awakened support system, which is being phased out.
They're phasing out the
Awakened
Awakened?
supports have long been a capstone investment for a character, but there's existed a gulf between the more interesting ones, such as Awakened Spell Cascade, which has some additional transformative effect, as opposed to some of the simpler Awakened supports, which just have slightly higher numerical values. Exceptional supports will all be transformative, serving as an additional late-game tool to customize your build around, and extending character customization and creation even later into a build's life. One of the goals here is to provide interesting build choices even at later levels and deep into the endgame. However, we are certainly not aiming to reduce top-end player power with these changes. Exceptional supports will still be super strong. If used well, they will catapult your character even further than before. So, how many are there, and what exactly do they do? There are over 40 new exceptional supports to discover, adding additional enticing drops to bosses that may otherwise have felt not as worthwhile to run. giving players extra reason to take on those challenges. For instance, from the King in the Mists, we have the Hex Toad support. This support creates areas of swampy cursed ground, which spawns toads that bounce towards enemies and then explode, dealing chaos damage.
Bouncing chaos toads.
From the Uber Elder, we have the Void Storm support, which causes your raining attacks to create celestial storms of energy that grow over time, detonating as you approach for massive damage. Defeating the incarnation of Neglect may win you the Frost Mage support. Similar to the existing Archmage support, you are rewarded for stacking mana to enhance your spells with extraordinary cold damage.
That
We'll tease
sounds
some more
like
of these
it's gonna
before
be
launch,
heavily
but
used.
there will be many, many more for you to discover.
There's a lot of cold builds.
Keepers of the Flame is coming back. However, we do know that many players have issues with the walls in Hive encounters. In order to address these concerns, we'll be making a number of changes. One of the biggest problems is that walls would block your projectiles, meaning that when a hive randomly spawned in your map, it would make it harder to clear. In order to prevent that, walls and hive encounters will now be destroyed by any damage. But we also wanted to make sure we reduce the visual clutter they cause. Hives and their walls are now smaller. To allow players to engage with hive encounters quicker when they do want to help Aelith, we've added a new Atlas passive which drastically increases the detonation area of unstable burrows, causing them to reliably chain react and destroy the majority of the remaining walls. For those who don't want to deal with the walls at all, there's now a pair of keystones that allow you to block hive encounters or unstable breaches, if you want. Now that this is a core league, we don't want you to have to grow your Genesis tree from scratch on every league start. So now, each womb gift slot is already usable by default, and access to the Monastery of the Keepers will be gained by finding Aelith starting in Act 6 Mudflats. Now with Atlas Tree and Scarab support, you can have multiple unstable breach encounters active in a single area, for maximum ruckus. Speaking of Atlas Tree and Scarab support, we've added plenty. Here are a few examples. The Massing Forces Atlas notable grants a chance to have additional unstable breaches in your maps. The Breach Scarab of the Marshal guarantees a breach boss or hive fortress, while the Breach Scarab of the Incensed Swarm replaces all of Aelith's skills with Enrage the Hive, increasing the difficulty and reward from hive monsters in all subsequent waves. Graft items will no longer exist, but we've moved several of the graft skills to new exceptional supports, such as the Hiveborn support, which summons an army of breach minions to do your bidding when you use a supported offering skill, and the Foul Grasp support, which calls forth a field of grasping breach hands when you recall brands, exploding for heavy lightning damage when enemies approach them. We're looking forward to seeing how these improvements and additions are received, alongside a lot of what Keepers also has to offer. From the new bosses in their bloodline, through to the Genesis tree and its many different crafting options, like Foulborn Uniques. Also with its new narrative, we look forward to extrapolating on all of this and learning more about Aelith, the Hiveborn, and its Breach Lords in the future. That covers all the new content we're adding, and that was a lot. From a new in-game system, several new reward types, new ways to juice maps, all of which you can double up in the new Mirage League, and all that alongside a suite of new holy skills, a new Ascendancy class, and an insane amount of new character customization in the endgame. However, an important part of Path of Exile expansions is making sure there is a continued effort to improve quality of life. So let's get into that now. You can now favorite trades on the currency exchange.
This is huge.
This consists of selecting 2 currencies that you want to be able to trade between with a single click, and setting them as a favorite trade. Favorite trades will appear by default on opening the currency exchange, and will still auto-suggest a ratio based on recent trade data. A further improvement to the currency exchange is the ability to open and interact with your stash while you have the exchange window open. Now, when trading in a full set of divination cards,
This
it
is
will
huge,
automatically
too.
be handed in to become the resultant item. If you then turn in another set immediately, the reward from the previous set will be transferred to your inventory directly, assuming there's enough free space to do so.
Yep.
Labyrinth font crafts that previously gave a random transfigured gem now allow you to choose which transfigured gem of that type you'd like to receive. The asynchronous trade item sale history is now hoverable, with full item descriptions of the sold item. When using Divine Orbs, you can now tell exactly which modifiers can be randomized.
Well, that's kind of dumb.
The
Divine
ritual
Orbs have been in
icon
the
will
game
now glow
forever.
if you've got significant unspent tribute in an area and all
I guess
rituals
it's
are
nice
complete.
for new viewers.
And a pop-up will appear after the final ritual completion. Also on the topic of ritual, you can now quick use vessels on completed rituals. Have you ever tried to click a divine shrine, surrounded by enemies, and find it extremely difficult to click? Well, shrines now take priority over monsters when clicking in an area they overlap. Since 3.24, we've been looking to add new ways to improve the campaign experience, and 3.28 is no different. This patch, we've added over 20 landmark rooms throughout the campaign, scattered across all 10 acts. Some of
I'm
these
excited
rewards
for
are
this.
pretty useful stuff, so keep an eye out for the new and unexpected rooms, side passages, chests, and encounters as you progress throughout Rayclast. We want most of these to be a surprise, but we'll show you just one. There is now a small central island in the Karui Fortress, all inhabitants of which will drop a basic tattoo when slain. Next up, we're going to be talking about our new supporter packs. Today, we're launching 2 new series of supporter packs: the Curator of Wisdom and Iron Incarcerator packs. Each tier contains the pack's full face value in points, alongside several exclusive microtransactions.
Those look pretty.
As always, the microtransactions in these packs
lackluster,
are
to be
purely
honest.
cosmetic and do not affect your character's power or progression in any way. The Curator of Wisdom series of supporter packs contains 7 exclusive microtransactions. The Traveling Wisdom back attachment has all the necessary tools you may require to chronicle your journey, complete with a helpful rat friend. These chronicles will activate their magic upon identifying items, and will track the number of items identified of each rarity. Just
Yeah,
hover the
that's-
item, or link it in chat to show it off.
That's pretty mid. No one cares how many
The
rare
acquired
items you've
Wisdom unique
identified.
finisher effect summons an ancient scroll that consumes unique enemies and the knowledge they hold. Most exiles would struggle carrying piles of scrolls while traveling Rayclast, but the Grand Curator of Wisdom armor set is perfect for the adventurous scholar. Any expert curator knows that scrolls hold more than just knowledge, they also hold power. As you cast spells, the scrolls attached to the armor will burn away, before rematerializing shortly after. It also features a
dumb.
series of helmet variations, so you can get precisely the look you're after. Summon your Scroll Shaper familiar pet to follow alongside you. This creature is formed from folded magical texts, and can shapeshift between different forms. You can think of this as having multiple pets in one. It can fold into a fox, and then even burn away,
That's pretty cool.
reforming into a flying bird.
Is that it though?
This
Just the
series
bird
of
and the
packs
fox?
also contains the Scroll Portals, jumbo-sized versions of the Scroll of Wisdom and Portal Scroll that you can make a quick retreat through. A supreme catalogue of knowledge can't remain in one place for too long and risk being pillaged by thieves. The Titan Apex Hideout features a colossal titan who carries your base of operations atop their shoulders, constantly moving through a boundless desert. The Iron Incarcerator pack also contains 6 exclusive microtransactions. The Incarcerator's Restraints back attachment features stockades that were used to immobilize prisoners by binding them to the earth as they were tortured for their wrongdoings. Shackles envelop your choice of torturing device when using the Chains of the Incarcerator weapon effect.
Yeah, it's pretty
These
mid.
chains shatter into links as you batter enemies. Make your way through Red Class as a walking penitentiary, intimidating your enemies with the elite Iron Incarcerator armor set. After a long day of tracking down criminals, step into the Iron Maiden portal to retreat to your torture chamber.
That's sick.
It acts as a great deterrent for would-be intruders.
Portals are always dope.
This peculiar creature was a favorite amongst incarcerators. They would be sent into the midst of prison riots to mesmerize and control the toughest of minds. Use their talents to charm other
Just
players'
the concept
pets,
of the Iron
causing them
Maiden
to
in
abandon their
general
owners
is
and follow in line behind you
insanely
instead,
cool.
at least until it wears off. What better way to execute prisoners when your torturing has depleted their value? Harvest their souls to fuel this map device, condemning them to eternal incarceration. Your kills within the map are also recorded based on the rarity of the monster. You can choose to pin an execution session that you're satisfied with on this miniature leaderboard, which is displayed for all that dare enter your hideout.
Okay, that's cool.
Additionally, all microtransactions from these supporter packs will be made available for use in Path of Exile 2. Thank you so much for your ongoing support. We're just about to start the Q&A with Ziggy D. Afterwards, we'll post the full patch notes for Path of Exile Mirage at 11 AM New Zealand time, 2 PM Pacific. With release at the end of next week, our community team will be posting crucial information you'll need for the release. Keep an eye on the news.
Where's the link for the drops? I want to see how much that gave me. Or did it not count me as a chatter because I didn't click the chat button?
G'day Exiles, welcome back. ZD here, joined by game director Mark Roberts and game designer Octavian to do our Q&A post-live stream discussion.
Are they going to fix that echo? What's going on?
We'll see where things take us, especially with us discussing things like ground loot, endgame breach, King's March, balance. There's a lot to cover here.
I walked in here with you forever, Ziggy.
Yeah, that's good. Let's do it.
Yeah, but
And,
normally you
well,
can
let's
see
start off by
the progression of your
welcoming
drops up
Octavian
top.
here to the show for the first time.
Hello.
And what brings you here with us today, Octavian?
This guy? I don't know. He's the one who said I should. No, I mean, I've been doing a lot. So we'll get into more details later, probably. But the teams between PoE 1 and PoE 2 have become a little bit more distinctly split as of late. You know, there's definitely still some people who jump back and forth, but myself, I work fully on PoE 1 at the moment. And I've been doing a lot of the design work on, you know, pretty much everything to do with the 328 expansion. You know, it's not just me. I'm working with a number of other designers, but I've had my hands in a lot of it.
Yeah, I mean, it represents a Path of Exile 1, like getting the team and resources that it needs to like continue its development and like put out some spicy expansions every 4 months or something you're trying to do now. So it's a pretty exciting thing for PoE 1 fans.
I mean, it's a lot to take on for sure. Like, and there's been some growing pains. We had our whole like team was split and merged team, and now we're kind of splitting again, and we're kind of going all over the place. But honestly, what allowed us to do the split this time is Octavian and Andrew, who's not here, but hopefully maybe next
Bro,
time
how
or
do
in the
people
future,
manage chats
we'll
like
think
this?
He might get a bit too cozy on this couch.
might
with
be
two
a longer
people, but,
couch.
you know, we'll figure that out. But yeah, with Octavian here, you know, stepping up and seizing control and having that like X Factor design, which is something that I would say Jonathan and I have,
right
and you know, pretty much before I was going back and forth on the game so aggressively, and I was just like, holy, there's so much context switching going on. I didn't feel like I was giving enough time to each product, you know, because I was so spread too thin, as they say, and all this. And so all of a sudden, yeah, with Octavian's, just like, let me do it. And so here's where we are. And it's this real awesome story where now, Path of Exile 1, obviously, you started by Chris, you got Jonathan, you got Eric, and obviously they started the project, they started grinding gear, and they had this, obviously they hadn't played the game before because the game was new, right? And so they're developing it and, release it and all this, and now you've got this thing where it's, with Jonathan's obviously still in the picture, but you got this thing where it's kind of like me with Octavian and Andrew, all three of us coming into the company as players through QA, now getting to this point. And so, a lot of what Octavian's getting is the story I got, and obviously I'm all for that because I got lucky and I'm happy about it and I love my job, and so I'm seeing this happen again. It's exciting, and it's just it's bloody cool, while also makes things easier for me, I'm like way less stressed about it. I'm way less spread too thin. I get to actually focus on the quality and what we're doing, and it's just an all-round win. And first time Octavian
you
here
are now
doing
eligible
these.
to
We'll see a lot more of them, I'm
see,
sure,
there we
unless
go.
something goes
Mirage
catastrophically wrong
weapon
today.
effect. Claim that.
Good luck.
Yeah, sure.
It's awesome.
I'm confident. I'm confident in the content and the expansion.
No, it's real good. It's awesome. Yeah, like for sure. Like if you're looking at a
Yeah, I got my
for my
weapon
first
effect
time
already.
kind
Is there
of
more
thing,
than one
like,
drop?
I don't think it could have gone any better, to be honest. And good. It's good, and obviously keen to talk about it and keen to answer all the questions, and sure, hopefully you are too.
Yeah, Octavian's been super humble and stuff when I've been talking to him. Like, you're doing a good job. This is good content.
No, it's a big deal. It's a big deal. It's huge.
And killing tier 17s. What a champion for Path of Exile players everywhere, mate. Good stuff. But I love that you guys have had that same journey as well. Like
they have two notifications on top of each other here that I
players
can't
become QA, become
see, so that's cool.
Designers become producers and leads on Path of Exile 1 project now. Like it's like the game is in the hands of the players, right? Like,
yeah, kinda.
Yeah.
I mean, I still, play every expansion for, not as much time as I did when I streamed the game for a living, when it was my job to play it for 8 to 10 hours a day, but I still probably put in an unhealthy amount of time. I work on the game for 8 hours and then I go home and play the game for like 4, and then I maybe eat something and then go to bed. It hasn't faded, I had a lot of people when I first joined the company asking me, like, do you not play the game anymore? Is it not fun anymore? Like, do you get sick of it? And no, it has not yet happened.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, I'm excited to talk about all the new stuff, but first, I think we definitely need to talk about ground loot.
Yeah, the loot. There's not much loot on the ground down here, is there?
I don't see anything.
Where's the
nothing's
loot?
making it through my filter right now. This floor is empty. Ground loot is a hot topic discussion right now, and has honestly been for a long time in some iteration or another. I remember as far back as I was trying to find where, for me, the idea of where some of these things trace back to, and for me it was actually like Legion, like farming low tier maps where you're getting that flat additive loot in the map, and so all of a sudden you're not caring so much about what the regular monsters drop. You're just doing your tier 4 glacier to get Legion and stuff like that. But this whole thing is definitely it's been a tricky topic to break down, because a lot of people have various different issues. Some people are like blaming loot tiles. Other people, like myself for example, think loot tiles are great. They're just kind of like indicative of the difference between what is dropping from regular monsters in a map and what is being given through what I will refer to as loot tiles, but is generally like flat additive systems, something that adds something, a known quantity, something that's going to be, what you're going to be getting to some extent. And
someone just asked, where's the flicker buff? And I agree.
For various reasons, but they don't necessarily scale with difficulty in the same way as regular content can. They don't have as much of that element of surprise. And I think trying to really figure out where a lot of this comes down to, what's the actual issue, if you kind of peek through the curtains a bit. I think it's just that people are getting their loot in ways that feel like it isn't earned.
Should I post the toucan in their live stream?
You've either got non-combat drops being really good, things like shipments and
people are spamming loot, floor loot
tiles, which have that kind of preordained
Alright, where is it?
feeling.
My last message
as
at the
directly
gate of, I'm
correlated
doing
with the
it.
content you're doing. So I'm just curious how you guys are feeling about or tracking with that. Just discussion in an overall sense before we dive into some of the specifics.
Well, there's a couple. Obviously, look, item drops are complicated. This model is complicated. The system is complicated.
I posted the toucan.
And it's easy to get lost in the weeds and all that. But honestly, let me simplify it down. Yes, if people don't think it's good enough, it's not good enough. So we'll fix it, right? And now, obviously, these things can take time, but I mean, we'll immediately just to get right in there, because I know what people actually want to know is, what are you doing about it? So let's get to that straight away, which is, at least for now, given that we have, a week till release. But that being said, we can always make loot better mid-league, right? And that's never a problem.
That's never a problem.
It's taking away this problem. But, yeah, look, as I said, if you say it's not good enough, it's not good enough. That's how it is. That's just the nature. If the players, and I mean the audience at whole, is like, it sucks, then it sucks, right? So we'll make it better. So to start with, what we're going to be doing, instead of, there might be some terminology here I need to make sure I acknowledge people don't understand. We will effectively be doubling all the currency.
And this is
That's
from
number one. From core drops, as we call it. Yeah. Not windows, not tile loot, whatever all the terminology is. Obviously, that will then, by consequence, diminish the rewards from window loot and tile loot. Yes, that is intentional.
Just economically speaking, you mean, like?
Yes, correct. It isn't just proportionately. One goes up, the other is now less value proportionally.
Yeah, just like inflation and whatnot.
What else are we doing? We're going to do a bit of a pass on, like memory strands was an attempt to try and get equipment. So that's the currency. The equipment, memory strands was an attempt to get equipment drop to be more impactful. When you identify it, I would say that system didn't. It has its purposes, but it didn't land as good as we wanted. So we're just reassessing that, since we're also making changes to the end game around originator maps and all that. Look, they're going to be better. There'll be generally more strands. They'll have higher impact. So identified items via that means will just be better. We're also we're going to see if we can do it in time to make sure that it also doesn't just pick bad base types.
Oh, yeah, that's already been done.
There you go.
Nice.
Sweet. Well, we did a lot of this yesterday.
So base type biasing?
It has yes, so it still can technically, if you get rather unlucky, pick a lower tier base type, but it's heavily biased towards picking higher tier base types to put the memory strands on.
Okay, that's cool. I remember like a long time ago, it was not like that was avoided specifically. It was like, some people might want like a Grove bow or something instead.
I mean,
sure.
I think at this point,
whatever.
I posted it,
deal with it, I guess.
and nothing happened.
Greater good is often the way to look at that. And then look, we're doing some other things. We're going to have ancient orbs, fracturing orbs added to the core drop pools.
I'm going to do it again.
Which should help a little bit for that more kind of mid to higher tier currency.
Yeah, those are the. Ooh, yeah.
We're doing anything else? So we're doing a little bit of a rebalancing of currency proportions. When I say double currency, by the way, I immediately obviously forgot to mention the important thing. We're not doubling transmutes and orgs. We're doubling the things that matter.
True.
We're doubling the more important currency. We're not you're not just going to get twice as many of the trash. Obviously by end game, you don't need the thousands of them that exist already. So, look, that's the immediate step that we're taking. It's always going to be an ongoing discussion. There's always going to be ebbs and flow to this. Always, right? There will be a thing where maybe ground loot is saved, and then a year later we'll be having the exact same discussion with a slightly different twist. And that's fine. That's just how it works. You might even find 6 months from now or something where people are like, bunch of these leagues aren't worth doing because the window loot happens to suck from them or something. These are just how these things go. It's a constant back and forth. It's a constant conversation. And the important thing is, it's just like, there's a problem, fix the problem. Don't freaking. And the thing is about it, and because item drops is so complicated, what you do find, and you find it internally, you get lost in these just crazy philosophical conversations for like hours and hours and hours and hours of talking about why and what did we do in the past that did X, Y, and Z. And it is important to discuss those, but sometimes it's also important to just bulldoze through and just start making changes and start fixing the problem. Now, especially with a week till deployment, like we don't want to sully or have all the content to be ultimately, less appreciated because of the fact that, ground drops suck, which, as I said, I agree. We're doing what we can now. We'll hopefully do more later, if that's what's needed. Just keep telling us about it. You know what I mean? But for now, we're going to be doing a bunch of changes because we can this week. We can test them this week. We can make sure that we're happy with them this week. And if we do anything else, we'll let you know. And then, we'll just keep going. And we obviously got changes to King's March, which is obviously window loot. You've got changes to I mean, the new league, I would say, is one that more favors generally things that aren't in Windows. You know, and so we'll see. I don't know. Hopefully that's a good start, and we'll see where it ends up, I guess.
Octavian, you were mentioning to me this idea that like, there's like a lot of white trash items that are dropping, and something about like that kind of effectively becoming currency was kind of the idea there.
Sort of in a way. So like when Mark says doubling the currency that drops, we're not like there is a total amount of weighting in the drop pool, if that makes sense. And we're not adding more weighting to that drop pool. Instead, we are subtracting it from places like, normal basic equipment that every single person is hiding on their loot filter. That weighting is now going instead towards currency items. And like Mark said, specifically towards currency items that aren't like transients.
There's technically not more items on the floor, it's just more of the garbage has turned into, ideally now, mid and higher tier currency.
Yeah, so like once upon a time we had this like massive historic quantity rarity buff removal thing that occurred, and some of the numbers on that were like crazy. It was like, this has 1600% increased quantity. So for the skeptics out there, like my father when I was young, who would say, I'm doubling your pay this week. Double nothing's nothing. Do you think like doubling the currency is something that has like a pretty appreciable impact on like a map to map basis, when like a lot of the time you are kind of just walking out with a couple fragments and a scarab?
I mean, double is definitely still double. It's a pretty big deal,
There's a difference between like economic changes.
It's definitely.
Things
I agree. It is definitely different to a like 6% glacial hammer buff or whatever's happened historically. It definitely will make a pretty notable difference, but that case there is also an important one, and we were still actively discussing that yesterday, where we were like, there's a little bit of wanting to make sure there's a minimum as well, especially with a certain amount of content. Like, I appreciate that a lot of people are like, there's that juice up here, and there's that like, here's just your base map, and there's a bit of an expectation that you should be able to just go in, clear the map, and come out with more. And I generally agree with that. I would say that the base map is kind of bad right now with respect to some of that, and so but again, this is that thing where we've got these things we can do now and quite quickly, because we understand the ramifications of them way more. Then there's still all these other conversations we need to have about more like that and how we can achieve that. There's things about how can we've always wanted the idea that the quality of equipment is dropping better, but there's less of it. How can we achieve that? And like, it's quite complicated and quite difficult to do, and it has like all these ramifications down the line, and it just goes and goes and again. So right now, focus on what we're doing, but we will 100% be looking at things like the minimums, the base mapping experience versus the giga juiced. Because the other thing we need to make sure we don't do is often what you can do is you can add something that is more for your average player doing your average regular map, and then that, once multiplied by every single league thing, ends up being just more and more for the top end, and then it's a bit of a rich get richer situation, and you didn't end up necessarily even benefiting that person. You in fact made them now feel worse from an economic standpoint. So like, you have that thing where you need to give something there, but take away from something here, and that can be dangerous because you might overcook the nerf, you might overcook the buff, you might undercook on either,
or just announced.
It's scary for sure. So I mean, even yesterday, to be fair, yesterday I was the one proposing all the craziness. And I was like, whatever, it's fine, let's just do it. Everyone's like, whoa, calm down. I was like, all right, fair enough, I'm calm. We'll do the safe stuff that we know that's high impact and going to help people now more than anything, and then we'll keep looking at this stuff. So I would expect more changes. Again, I would, depending on what they are, mid-league. Again, I don't like nerfing strategies mid-league. Like, that's a last resort.
It again, Justin. You can see
if all of a sudden it's like buff and nerf, and if we can be 100% certain it hasn't like screwed over a bunch of people's current economic wealth, that's good. But look, if it isn't solved, then 329 will have more. So just make sure you keep letting us know, right? Like, that's the important thing. Like, often what happens is like a topic can come up and then be lost, because other stuff moves on or whatever. Like, it's really important that, and it's obviously a responsibility on our end to make sure we go, okay, this is still a problem. It's not like just because
we can check in each Q&A on this one. For sure.
Yeah,
I think
sure.
It's like a good ongoing
Sure.
one to
For sure.
review. I think it'd be good if you can get like, you know, for the Alk and Go players, like to a situation where they can get two chaos to rub together. But I think like an interesting situation is that
At the end of March?
you can
What
kind
about
of
it?
stack all of this juicing stuff into.
No,
juicing
this
the
is coming
normal
out
content
on
about the
March
monsters.
11th or something.
And you can't really like scale it, or the scaling has not really any impact on that. It's like something to do with like, it might literally be that like double nothing is nothing situation where you're like, oh well, through all these scarabs and Atlas stuff, I've juiced these monsters up 1800%, but they ultimately still aren't able to drop anything at that point. Now how do you make it able to scale? It feels like actually like a really difficult design problem right now. How do you get it
Just
actually
points
able to
to
scale basic
toucans?
monsters to make them both challenging and rewarding? Because like Affliction's various issues aside, something that was cool about that was that you could scale rare monsters to be really freaking hard and really rewarding, and that was actually like a cool thing that maybe needs to be in the game somewhere, and maybe that we've lost.
You see a lot of this thing with the difficulty scaling, where you get that exact argument where people are like, I want a way to be able to scale monsters, but then you also have the audience who are like, I want things to be rewarding without needing those scaling mechanisms.
Gotta have a bit of both, I guess.
You do need a bit of both. It's never going to be perfect. You're always in a kind of grey area. And that's
Something
where I
went
talk about
wrong.
the ebbs
Please
and flows
try
of just
again
things
later.
coming and going, and
No, I
ultimately
got-
it's what feels right to as
I
many
got
people
chat
as
banned.
possible. And or there are many options for these things, right?
Yeah, I wonder if we just need some like chunkier options that do.
I don't know
just,
for
like,
how
we do,
long,
you know,
but
Yeah,
those
100%.
base monsters just
It's probably like
punch
5
a bit
minutes
harder,
or
some like
something.
big nodes, big
And
notables
yes,
on that.
show us your
Octavian was
gross
specifically pushing for
toes.
this yesterday, and we're in agreement. It's just a matter of coming up with what that is. And
The hardest, like, you know, Atlas passives and scarabs and that kind of thing to design are usually the ones that are the most broad. You know, like if you're designing for a particular
YouTube is
mechanic or
lagging?
something,
What's
you
wrong
know
with YouTube?
what levers and knobs you have to turn. But if you're designing something for the monsters in the map, that's a little tougher. And that's not to say there aren't cool designs there. There definitely are, but it is one of those things where, like, we probably can come up with a bunch of cool stuff by 329, but probably don't have it
this
in
is
the next
obviously
week.
like this is like another league situation here. But I wonder if there's like this needs to be keywordified, like some sort of like native monsters.
Yeah,
keyword to,
we
like,
do.
something like that.
natural inhabitants is
Natural
what we currently
inhabitants,
call
there you
them,
go,
yes.
We do have that as a concept, yeah. It's not used super frequently, but there's a few places in
Yeah,
there.
that's
But then
something to play
you
with,
also then don't want it to be that then there is a league and the league just feels like absolute trash, you know? So again, little bit of a fine balance, and because otherwise you're going to start the ebb or the flow on the other side, and now all of a sudden it's like,
Well,
no, there's no point adding any leagues to my area.
So,
you
I mean,
know?
some of your well-designed leagues, I think, can work well with that. Like the Mirage,
Correct.
just as an example, for
True,
example. Like,
100%, yes.
if that was in now,
Bro, I was
Mirage
reading
would
that too,
work
and I
well.
was
Do you
about to-
duplicate
I was
all those
about
scaled
to
up, like
rage
naturally
bait, dude.
occurring monsters and adding more of them effectively as well. Like,
I was about to
not
reply to
like
that
loot tile,
specific
but still
user
kinda
and be like, the fuck you
randomized
talking
monster
about?
stuff,
This
which is
game's already got
pretty
cats
cool.
and dogs and
As you
shit
can see,
in
though,
here.
also we've just done a lot of changes, especially to existing systems. Like we're not afraid of. I mean, items a bit more scary because you do need to test it. You don't want to mess
Might
that
be
up.
chicks that play
you know,
the game,
but we're not.
but
And Octavian's not too afraid.
It's
It
still
seems
a
to be able to
monster
suggest the
hack
crazy
and
things
slash
that we
gory
fresh
game.
blood, bit of vigor for change. That's good.
Yeah, sure.
I think we just said even to you this morning, it's like Octavian and I were just like talking absolute madness, I believe I phrased it as, in terms of doing all these crazy things and like, you know, just tipping things upside down and like seeing what works, seeing what doesn't. And so we'll just keep doing it. But,
I mean, you guys
no,
can
it's
cut loose.
exciting.
You're in charge of the game now.
Now is the time. I really
Someone
love these
really needs to
conversations in this
answer that
point
question.
because
I want to know if the
now is
breach
the
tree got
time
nerfed.
when like we don't plan stuff so
They
far
said
in
it's
advance.
going
Hopefully
core.
people know that by now.
it
We stay
like-
dynamic, we stay agile with that stuff, and right now
You know.
is when we're discussing what are we doing for 329, what are our major headliners,
Yeah,
what are
that-
our minor headliners, and
I
so
usually say that start like the week before this one releases. It's like usually it's like, okay, what's the next league look like?
yeah, and so right now is the thing where we're putting our effectively our list. What are our tier 1 problems, our tier 2 problems? What are the things we want to achieve? Not, and so, you know,
The hardest part is I've already got some stuff that I really want to do in 329 that I'm really excited about, and I can't talk to you about it.
Yes, I know. You guys told me something before the Q&A. I'm like, you can't tell me this right before the Q&A, and I'm not allowed to talk about it. I have to, like, come on.
So mod works
I really
with
wanna bring
yeah, but
that
now
up.
you have
clients.
4 months of prep for the next Q&A.
Oh yeah, I'm ready. But my questions are ready for that topic. We'll have to wait a while on that one though. Something that on this ground loot topic that I'm kind of have been sad to see fade away to an extent. It was the loot conversion mechanic on rare monsters. Now, it was obviously really problematic when it was first implemented because it was associated with arch nemesis monsters, and then it had like pinata fishing stuff. But you guys solved that by making it actually properly random. And then even though it was kind of a loot tiled mechanic in the sense that it's like making a specific drop at it, it's random and it doesn't feel like that at all. So it's, I think loot conversion, so for those who are unfamiliar with what I'm talking about, this is occasionally rare monsters have like a hidden thing where they will take whatever they were going to drop and they change it into something else. And that is like fun
Atashi,
and
why were
weird
you
and
thinking of
surprising
the
and
29th?
weird and like surprising loot drops.
Spike moments.
Yeah, those are the things you remember. Like, I remember the first time I saw like, you know, they all got changed into currency, or they all got changed into maps, or some weird other thing happened.
That was another big topic yesterday. It's like that because that was another. And there's so many axes here, but we were like, we need to reinstate spike moments. Moments where you're like, whoa, this is crazy, and that not just being a divine or having to mouse over every type of a unique of a given base type.
Yeah, don't hurt yourself for it.
That is what achieved that. I mean, I believe we are at least we obviously nerfed those. It was a bit hectic. But we're easing back on some of that, at least for 050. What the heck? 328. Up to, so that's what I mean. Too many games for 328.
050.
We're easing back on those.
What's
dimension return
0.50?
penalties,
Oh,
I
that's
believe we
Path
applied.
Exile.
So,
okay.
you know, at least they'll be more spiky again, but not what they once were. What they were was kind of a bit out of control. That being said, it's important that there are those crazy spike moments, and if there aren't enough, like that might not be enough, then we have to we'll add more.
So it's important that there's a variety of them too.
That's
the fundamental challenge of a loot-based video game is getting players to, you know, care about, you know, the different pixels on their screen, and like this set is more exciting than that set. And like that's the trick that as game designers you're trying to play on people, and it's not an easy trick to play. And you know, like one small thing, like Mark said earlier, that we are doing for 328 is the ancient orbs and fracturing orbs to the global drop pool, because now there's another shiny tink that might occur in the form of the fracture orb.
Yeah,
but we want more giga tinks.
Yes, that is certainly not the extent of it. It's
you want
just
the thing where there's like 50 tinks overlapping all at the same time, and your sound channels are like, I don't know how to deal with
and
this.
Just like, the unexpected and the weird, that's the thing that I want to really drive home. Is like, I want you guys to come up with like 10 new weird things that rares can drop, because it makes rares like matter again. It makes them interesting again. Like, I'm excited about a rare because it could do something I've never seen before, and that's
one of my favorite. Like
after 10,000 hours or whatever.
If we design something like that and it's a success and it's like a meaningful new niche in the game, that was one of my favorite things as a player. You know, chasing those weird niches to try and find some, you know, strange corner of the economy that I could leverage. And I want to add more of that.
Right. Yeah.
We will. It's on the mind for sure. Hopefully by 329 we've got a good set of that.
So potentially some more loot conversion,
but
weird explosions and stuff.
There's kind of things in the meanwhile. You also then, when doing that, don't want to then just make the map boss feel valueless and all that stuff. So it's a little bit more to make sure we get right. Because
map bosses could be a good place for that sort of thing, honestly, like the weird drops like that.
In theory, you do it on both. Could be distinct pools on
Do
each. Who knows? But then you don't want to create an environment where the map boss is only so rewarding that you just kill the map boss and repeat. Or maybe you do. I don't know. Who knows?
Just make everything good.
Tonight I'm going to focus on making a shit
It's all good. We'll get there 100%. I have no lack of confidence in that factor, like for sure. So
you touched on King's March. So there's like King's March is like a big kind of like grouping of the same issue there, where it's like the gambling, the shipments, and the mappers. And those giving some of the most rewarding loot right now. It's just not from combat gameplay ultimately. And this was something I was going to bring up later, but I'll bring it up here now. It makes sense. That like I think I like King's March. A lot of people like the King's March shipments and stuff like that. But I think over time it's definitely started to feel more and more like what I was initially concerned about, which is that it'd be like daily quests, mandatory chores, exactly. Yeah, busy work sort of stuff for loot that you're not really earning. It's disconnected from your gameplay and that. I was surprised to think about the crop and ore change. It's like it's a pretty subtle thing, but it actually seems like that might be kind of impactful. Do you think that's going to make a big difference though?
I mean, it does make a big difference, yes, because you have to now engage with the league and be invested in the league in order to now get the printed currency.
Yes.
So at least there's that. I understand that's, a bit of a currency nerf to everyone, but hey, look, it's window loot, so, we're compensating for that in the rest of the game as well, so, with all the different
I think
leagues.
This is a hit
but
a lot of people are willing to take. It's like, because I think for King's March especially, it was something that it's like, technically it's optional, you don't have to do it, but like everyone is.
Yeah, it's not
So
really.
obviously
It's not really though, is it?
optional, right?
No.
The swap is sort of meant to help address.
Yeah.
Because, when you could just grow crops with nothing but money, then it doesn't really feel
not
optional, right?
optional.
Because
Yeah,
you're making
exactly.
gold whatever you're doing. So you have gold to give to King's March, and they can just turn that into money for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a quote that I picked out from somewhere that I found particularly entertaining, where it's like, someone's like, oh, my King's March mappers are getting better currency per map than I do, so I give them all my maps and I farm gold for them. I'm like, oh, that's just tragic, isn't it? It's not really where you want to be.
So now, and what you need to figure out is, does the doubling of currency double the King's March mappers amount of currency?
Well, it doesn't currently.
No, it doesn't.
Well, there you go. That's probably
Does it double the gold
part of
drops,
their
though?
solution
'Cause
there. Just kind of
I
accidentally.
don't want to
But,
pay 10 divine
Yeah,
to get
King's
a
March
gold
has a
carry.
pretty extreme love-hate relationship going on with everyone. Like, there's
Yeah, like
it's
I
very-
like it. Honestly, I enjoy logging in and getting my shipments, but it is. I do see the dark patterns there.
for sure.
Yeah,
For sure.
The issue there.
Hopefully these changes help. There's obviously more we can do in due time, but you also don't want to take away the thing that a lot of people do like. And that's where maybe making it more of an optional thing instead of the actual fake optional that it is right now is honestly the trajectory it needs to go. That way, if you love it, do it. If you don't, and you don't have to feel so penalized or bad about not having it. That's probably the direction to really go ultimately. How that will present itself, TBD, but we'll just have to see how the ore and crop change is actually quite a big
So
deal.
it just
and
adds
we'll just
an
have to see
extra
how that
row at
goes.
the
yeah,
bottom
it's
of
like
your
it seems like
inventory.
it'll have a surprisingly big impact for just a pretty simple thing. That's like
Someone said remove mirror shards from
It's like-
ships?
Yeah.
Fuck up, bro.
It's funny. It was just a bit backwards, I suppose. And I am interested to see how much change the port stuff you've done is, because you've moved around where rewards come from ports, made them more specific, because it was pretty autopilot before. Like, I just used the same port again and again. You just dumped all your crops in one port. There wasn't really much to think about there, but now it seems like you're actually gonna maybe be a little bit of strategy there about where you're sending what.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see how it plays out. I'm sure players will develop something of a meta. I think one thing that we didn't note as well is that, like, in the live stream footage, is that the what is it
When
called?
is
Quota?
GGG
Like
moving out of the country
port
and
wants a
hiring
certain
remote
resource.
resources?
Yeah,
Reroll them
that has much more of an impact than it once did
Yeah.
on the shipment that you'll return, and you can also re-roll that.
Yeah. It's hard to see like the impact of that sort of thing, so hopefully it's like something that's like pretty noticeable, I guess.
I mean, that is a system that was intended to promote that you vary up the different ports you send to.
Yeah. So hopefully that.
So like
that's the
even
case now.
if we've shuffled stuff around, you're still going to have a non-random meta generally, right? There'll be a certain port that gives you what you want, and there's choice within that, and that's great. But yeah, you need a kind of more random, and that's what that system was trying to do. It just wasn't doing it very well. So make it more impactful and keep doing so if we need to.
Vaguely similar to this idea of like getting the best loot from non-gameplay was the major boss drops coming more from reliquary keys than the actual boss, and those dropping globally as well. Is that something you're thinking about at all? I feel like a lot of people feel like it circumvents like the the point of the boss, and
It
devalues
does.
that a lot.
It does for sure. We're not doing anything about that right now that I'm aware of.
if you hadn't
But
Not in
Yeah.
328, but I actually personally also share this gripe. So
Agreed.
it is a thing that will be brought up with Andrew and the other designers working on PoE 1. So yeah, it's. I also agree. I would like it if every Starforge in the world came from killing Shaper. But we'll see whether we get to that reality or not. Like that's something that other people have strong opinions on as well. I'm not going to unilaterally say like, yes, we're doing this.
yeah. So is there a reason why like the boss doesn't just drop the keys that give those things or something? Like I guess they would need a bunch of different keys or something. Might be the issue there. You need like a reliquary key of Shaper or something.
Yeah, that would necessitate a lot of base items, but that might be fine.
We do have a lot of little things like that, don't we?
Didn't we do that at some point? I
I
swear.
feel like it.
I thought we had.
Don't we
it's
have the
ringing bells or something?
bosses
like,
drop
maybe
their
it was
own keys
discussed
for
at
their
one
own
point?
uniques? Wasn't that the point of that?
Just I guess it didn't. happen, or-
I could just be tripping.
Well, Valdo maps do work differently to the reliquary keys in that regard.
I need to look into this again because
Yeah.
I was under the impression that we intended for that to not be the case. Like I thought we had solved this in the past, but like Fever Dreams and all that.
Yeah, I was
too
like
many
unsure,
changes.
but
I'm
then it
like,
was like,
didn't we solve this like 3 years ago? I'm just like, I swear.
yeah, that question, I was surprised when that question was sent to me. So I was like, I thought you guys
The
had
perils
that,
of
but
continual
no.
development.
I'm gonna go look at that after this because I am convinced that I'm like having mega deja vu here. I swear. I thought that we had reliquary key and then all the boss specific reliquary keys and those gave the boss uniques and the base one doesn't because we didn't want them to give the boss uniques and thus I don't know.
That question was sent to me by a juicer, so I was like, oh, I take their word from that one. So
I don't know. Maybe maybe something slipped up and something went wrong there. I'm gonna go have a look at it after this. Again, whatever. The deja vu is real right now.
It
but
will be
like,
good to reassess the state of
I
it.
don't trust my short-term memory anymore. So, that might be long-term memory at this point. But all good.
the final-ish aspect of ground loot that I want to touch on for today is rare gear drops that just ultimately they're just not shown on filters because they aren't. They're either very rarely good or they just aren't even able to be good. Like it's not even physically possible for them to be competitive in many cases outside of some things like energy shield gear or suppression gear or whatever. There are some cases where it's like, it can never compete with like influenced modifiers or other random where you can jam things together, create the sort of stuff players can make via crafting and other systems. So I have a few kind of questions about like that. It's something I've talked about, a few times in the past. It's like it's always been a thing. Like, how do we make rares matter? I'm curious first, why isn't the tier system being used in Path of Exile 1 for rare drops?
Kind of is.
The
Memory strands are a technically more granular version of that.
Okay.
Which I mean, look, we've considered this, we've discussed this for sure, and this is part of the whole drop less but better. It's just it comes with these so many different consequences that we have to then work our way through, and the memory strands was our kind of way of trying to achieve that. And as I said, it didn't hit the mark for sure, and so we're now trying to make it better. But and I understand that that's like, they're from originator maps, not like game wide, which I don't necessarily mind either, that it's like at the end of the end game is when the stuff starts happening. But yeah, I mean, I'd first like to see if that can hit the mark first. That being said, there is just going to always be that there are crafting systems and drops at odds with one another. And you have so many people who are in favor of one versus the other. That being said, we don't want to also just be like flooding the ground. You know how much people can juice. You don't want to just be now just flooding the ground with rare items, and it's just like, oh my god, there's just too much stuff everywhere, and I don't know,
I was having a fantasy earlier about this. I was like dreaming about it and daydreaming about what would it be like if Path of Exile 1 all of a sudden dropped maybe only a few rares a map, and I was excited to identify and look at them. It's that would be such a crazy change from the amount of stuff that drops right now.
I think that game mode is called Ruthless.
Maybe.
Whoa, man. Whoa, it's your first time in the Q&A. Calm down. No. I mean, he's technically right, but we can solve that. But the discrepancy between average map and pinnacle, right? We obviously then have to assess, how can you if you can get 1,000 times more value out of your map, how do you then not go from 3 to 3,000 items? And we would need to address that because quantity is just quantity right now. So there's a lot of thinking about how that system can translate into that. Because I mean, at that point, the entire map would have to kind of understand its value of items already dropped and then kind of stop. There's something kind of a bit weird and complicated about it that I don't quite know how to achieve.
Tricky thing to nail down, but I wonder if there is a world in which such a thing is possible. For rares to kind of be I guess rare ultimately, but not to be not to be ruthless in the sense of it being an item scarcity situation, but just that well, man, if we're dropping 500 rares and we're not looking at them through the filter, then if those were rolled into 5 rares and they were 50 times better.
One of the things, and again, this is something that was discussed and not going into 328 because it has a lot of ramifications that we would need to interrogate for 329. But an extension of the memory strand changes was well, what if we just, how the the drop conversion stuff that you're talking about for rares. Like, what if we do some drop conversion thing where sometimes rares will drop way fewer rare items, but they'll drop super memory strand heavy items, and they'll drop a few of them, and like that sort of thing. It is definitely on our minds. I will say one of the things that contributes to this experience, particularly in keepers, was just the strength of the breach tree, the strength of the Genesis tree, and while that's being rolled into core, it has been adjusted.
Rip,
Yeah,
it's nerfed.
Yeah,
I mean, while
they
those
gutted
windows
the
are
tree.
they're generally going to be showing you just like effectively every rare item that's presented there is many thousands of rare items that are on the ground.
yeah,
And how is that ever going to compete as well? So then even
to make the ground items like that, I guess, would be how you compete, and that's what I'm
yeah.
curious
So
to see what
again,
that would look like.
there's like so many problems to solve here, and we'll just keep working through them. It's just again, I cannot stress how complicated all the item model and everything is, and you know, messing up
Tree
the economy
just
in any
got
drastic way,
Charlie
be it stuff that we do on accident. Sometimes we do try to avoid it as much as possible. And a lot of these things are really hard to come back from if you mess it up. If we just make like, if everyone's just getting like 95th percentile items off the ground and like the first tier 1 map they run, you know, you like the entire like get itemization of the in-game systems just down the drain. So like if we, you know, that's an extreme. That would assume we mess up bad.
Yeah.
But that's what knee-jerk reactions result in, right?
I believe in you. You guys have some experience now with the idea of like converting rarity into tiering up an item, like making it better. It's like, you know, as the rare kind of feeds into it. And that aligns nicely with the idea of this being something that grows over time with juicing.
I
So, like,
100% want
as you
to
move
do
up
that.
tiers and juice it, and your maps got like jumped from, you know, your average 100 rarity to 500 rarity or something, those items start to become a fair bit better rather than just being, because the way it is now effectively is just more white items being converted into rares, right? And
Yeah,
know,
you get the
occasional
cool thing
unique.
with them bosses because they have generally more inherent rarity, drop better gear, and rares drop better gear, and you know, it's not always better, but like, you know, the average is going to be significantly better, and I love that. I actually really like that, and I'd like to do it. So
Okay, that's good to hear.
we'll just keep trying to get there.
So on the issue of like normal rares not really even being able to compete with like crafted influence recombinated stuff, like Path of Exile 1 it's just got too much cool stuff now. It's not like you want to remove that. So the question is then like, how do you make rares compete with that stuff? Obviously like just having really well rolled stuff can work, and maybe only for specific kind of item categories like energy shield gear and things like that. But I am a big fan personally of things like temple modifiers and stuff like that that are a little bit weirder. Now that generally belongs in specific content, but I wonder if there's stuff like that you can do. Obviously we're talking about the memory strand kind of making the base matter, and I quite like overqualityed items for that point as well. Is this something you think along these lines of like other things you can do that maybe fit more in general content? Maybe just seeding the idea if nothing else.
Mercenaries.
There is probably stuff. It's kind of hard to think of exact things on the spot.
It kind of goes back to your previous comment about, you know, trying to make more like more meaningful tinks, I guess. Finding more axes to make gear matter in a way that's different from a different piece of gear mattering is like one of the most fundamentally difficult things in designing an item-based game, but it is also one of the most important.
The other thing is to not have dropped items be unrecognizable as well, though. You can't get too crazy with them.
Yeah.
That you want them to still feel relatively fundamental, and then you craft all the crazy. Which are at odds again with one another, right? Those two things, because crazy often can mean power. But yeah, like you don't want to just have every item, you just have to hover and know what are the 8 different things that could be considered. And I understand that the item filter can do a lot of that work, but you know, then there are those not using the item filters and not using different types of item filters, and now there's just this insane complicated web that they might have to deal with. So you still want the ground loot to ultimately feel fundamental, recognizable, and something not overly complicated, and then, you know, or the skill ceiling is what enables the complication of like the knowledge, what leagues am I doing, how am I interacting with all that. So it's that real difficult spot where you want to find really interesting stuff, but stuff that's also fundamental and feels core and isn't overly complicated, and that's why it's hard. It's really easy to come up with all kinds of crazy stuff.
Awesome.
It's coming up with the simple, more grounded things that are just real tricky for sure. And you know,
It's probably why we're here in the first place talking about ground loot, because like that is the more subtle, the trickier thing to get right. Whereas like to do
Sure.
crazy stuff through all the
For
various
real,
league
he's still
mechanics has
going on
been
about ground
that's what you
loot.
can let loose. So those have become better and
I
better
agree
over
with
time.
chat.
It's
Move
interesting.
on.
Yeah. Well, I'm starting to see now. Why aren't we talking about the new stuff? Like, perfect. I've done my job excellently. I have exhausted the ground loot topic to the point now where chat is starting to want me to change topics.
yeah,
and
you always start with the,
I hit the line that I was pushing for. Excellent.
you always start with the,
You want to start with the thing that people are,
of course,
feeling
100%.
Like, "Oh,
yeah.
I can't relax and listen to this other stuff until I'm reassured a bit.
But yes, would love to talk about it. Very excited.
Absolutely. Yeah, excellent. Mirage, the new league that has been showcased and announced here, is a bit of a spicy and interesting one, iterating upon a lot of different concepts and ideas here. It seems like the execution here is really about like a greater than I think we've ever seen, maybe, level of integration with existing content, like synergies between content, to the point where like you're actually making it so that other content in this is doing something unique, which I don't think we've ever done before. So
That's one of the things that's been most exciting about it to me. Like, just to spoil one more example, I guess, that we didn't give in the live stream.
cool.
The way that it interacts with Delirium, for instance, is you can drop a currency which can be used in a cluster jewel to change the enchantment of that cluster jewel.
Someone
But it doesn't change what's on the cluster
When are
jewel.
they going to
So
mention
you can
Delve?
theoretically roll like say a shield or a block cluster jewel.
cool.
You can roll a block cluster jewel into X notable that you want. You could then even fracture it and then use the new currency to change it over to being, I don't know, a brand cluster jewel or something, assuming those are both in the same size cluster
That is
jewel.
wild.
And then you can roll a brand notable along with your block notable or whatever.
Wait, did I
Yo.
miss where you said, like, can you do this just once, or is it
You can keep reusing the
so
currency.
you can like add a modifier and then change it to a new one, add a modifier? I want to modify from these two types and then to end with this type.
If you're the luckiest man on earth, yeah.
Crazy.
But how cool is that? I love that.
Bro, cluster jewels are
I'm
gonna
excited
go
about that.
in.
And like it's
Some cool ideas lately.
it's basically like, you know, me and Leighton, one of the other
Literally
designers, got
create
to
a
just
megalomaniac
design a whole
tree.
bunch of, you know, ooh, and wouldn't it be cool if we could go back in time and add this
See,
one other thing to
designing-
this mechanic?
Designing crazy is easy. No, it's not. No, that's underselling it. But I don't know. That's exciting for sure.
Yeah, that's wicked. So, like, was this the initial goal on the outside, or was just something happened kind of on accident? This idea of making Mirage really like interact with and amplify the existing content in the game.
The very, very initial goal was I like how some of my favorite designs for League mechanics are like Delirium and Affliction and stuff like that, even Sentinel to a degree,
Which
where it's like
do
it
that.
augments content. And I was
Yeah.
like, well, what if we could do that, except it augments the area and not the League, you know, not like just the monsters.
And then out of that grew is like,
Yeah, and then later we, you know, because that is a good base, but you need a good League mechanic needs a bunch of extra, like, you know, bells and whistles, I suppose.
yeah, it's always just been kind of like, oh, it accidentally kind of juices this other mechanic or for whatever reason. So that is that's a whole new level there. It was interesting. So I played through like the campaign with this league, and it almost felt like some sort of like best of Path of Exile league. It's got this like legacy league kind of feel
Yeah.
where you're like, there's just strong boxes and shrines and legions and stuff everywhere. It's like, I feel like I'm playing a juiced endgame version of the campaign more so than
The epic thing of
before.
it was a thing where like this is a thing I would say that is like almost a bit undersold almost, where it's like the impact this league has on the, like, normally you'd think, okay, so there's like an extra little bit of mud flats with some monsters like as a second replicated area. It's like, well, I don't really care about that. But then you're like, yeah, but what if when the Mirage is spawned, we also then ensure there's other bonus content that's currently in-game only generally, or like Mayhem League, you know, kind of stuff. Not that we do that much of that anymore. Yeah.
League.
And then all of a sudden, now you've got all this content appearing in the campaign, and it's like there's just so much stuff going on. And I actually think it's, I mean, I understand. Like, if you want to just get to endgame, go to endgame. It's still your choice. You don't have to. But for those actually wanting to engage with the league and the campaign, it's probably one of the most like interactive ones, and it probably adds the most amount of content out of any maybe that we've done before.
In addition to that, there's also a bunch of handcrafted campaign-specific wishes that, you know, they fall away at the end game because they're not really powerful enough to be competitive with the end game juicing wishes and that sort of thing. But they'll, give you a binding orb or two on completing, like like Act 1 or Act 2. There's very early ones that can give you that. There's ones that give you like a whole bunch of chromatic orbs. There's ones that give you, a unique weapon or
Stuff you need.
something like that. Things that are really useful in the campaign. Even later in the campaign, there's one that'll give you a 5-link. And then those will fall away as you get to the end game. So where they're not nearly as relevant.
Yeah, it's normally I like always interact with the league mechanic, even if I'm getting over leveled. This is one where I think like it's to the point. It's just to the point where you like do the really cool looking ones, and this is my advice: do the really cool looking mirages that have like a bunch of extra mechanics with it, and leave the other ones. Just like you'll be able to take it or leave it here, even if you're a player who normally does them all or
check the mechanics, check the wish, do it or move on.
Yeah.
Also,
like the wishes sometimes are unique, and
a detail that I wanted to make sure was known is so the mirage in the I call it the overworld and the recreate. Those are the internal terms we've been using. Okay. But the mirage around the object in the initial area, not the one that you've recreated, does have a lot of extra, monsters from the Alpha Room, as Mark was saying in the live stream. Those monsters are purely additive, so they don't displace existing monsters or anything like that, which does mean that even if you never enter a mirage, you're just kind of killing more stuff in the campaign than you would otherwise. Like, there's just extra monsters.
Probably how you were so over-leveled.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, I think I was like 10, 15 levels over pretty consistently since like Act 1. It's been like, oh man, I better skip over a few zones. And then I'm like, oh, well, mirage looks pretty tempting.
There's a bunch of kind of cool stuff as well. Like I know you mentioned as well the other day of the way the Mirage's area is generated, like it when you have a circle, you got a circle, right? And so in claustrophobic maps, a lot of that circle's an unwalkable space.
Yeah, we've had
the
this
way that the
before.
area of Mirage generates is it flood fills walkable space until it occupies an amount of space.
That's clever.
Which means on a map by map basis, it's relatively consistent.
I noticed that you solved that issue. I was like, oh, you guys have done it.
Yeah, our programmers put a lot of work into that. So they did a good job.
But even then you've got, now you can immediately think of that and go, well, hold on, if I'm in like, say, toxic sewer and it flood fills, I'm going to be so far away from the portal. Well, there's just a button to take you back to the start of
it.
Yes.
You guys are getting good at this, anticipating my quality of life complaints.
And it's got fancy effects when it teleports you.
Normally, like in the past, I'd come here and I'd play for a bit, and I was like, you guys need to make a quality of life for this. And then, like, no, you guys have done it already.
Part of doing quality of life changes, even though sometimes they're insane and sometimes they're, not as crazy, by doing it in every patch and holding ourselves accountable to doing it, we then often get like, well, hold on, what would we be doing next league for the new content? And
you've rewired your thinking, I think, on this.
Yeah,
I feel
100%.
like I've noticed that at least that mandate to like do 10 quality of life fixes. I think
another really minor
for them now.
Another really minor thing is the mini map in a Mirage area is always fully revealed, so you know where you need to go.
I didn't even notice, but that's awesome. Yeah. It's just like little things like that.
It is a actual terrain generation recreate, so to speak. So you wouldn't get lost either way, I suspect, if you were kind of remembering what happened anyway. But I mean,
in my memory, maybe.
Bit of a sure. It's true. We're talking about not having short-term memory, so who knows anymore nowadays?
It's a funny weird mechanic in the campaign too, because like quite often you're like, it spawns near the boss. You do the boss in the Mirage. You pick up the quest item from the boss in the Mirage.
Yep.
And you're like, I'll just go.
A lot of that suspiciously just kind of worked.
Yeah, it just works.
Made me feel really suspicious.
So
like there's some bug we're overlooking here, but it's been pretty thoroughly tested at this point. It just kind of works.
I've been intentionally trying to like be like, oh, what if I do it this way? Being like a little cheeky, like, oh yeah, what if I kill PoE in here and get the thing?
I mean, it has had some bugs. Don't get me wrong. Like there was a bug where like if the Mirage didn't generate far enough, you could click an entrance that's supposed to take you to somewhere else, and now you're just outside the Mirage and you can't move, that's not particularly good.
I haven't run into any of those things yet, so you've been polishing it out pretty well. Higher level of polish a week out than usually on this visit.
That's
so
good.
I've noticed. So you guys, the team division maybe is working well there.
Yeah, because by having ultimately Octavian and Andrew focused on PoE 1 entirely for that whole span, and we were obviously all discussed. I loved our generally our design meetings are at like 6 p.m. and then they just run until we, really look outside and we're like, oh, it's very dark. We probably should have gone home. But
The sun is rising.
yeah, we got these just cool, awesome like evening design sessions and that going on. But then those guys just were cranking from the get go, like
Awesome.
and as opposed to like kind of fighting for resources between the two, we laid out exactly here are the resources you got. If you need more, just tell us. But like work with that for now, get everyone working straight away. And I mean, obviously it sounds obvious. It's like that's how it should be. But you got the 2 games, especially it can be a bit hard. Like where do you go? What happens? Gets a bit crazy. So, as much as that sounds like, well, obviously it should work that way. It isn't as simple as it often sounds when especially with passion projects, because. You always, especially as a designer, you want to work on both things. You want to know what's this cool thing going on over there. I want to be part of that. So you have to also be able to kind of separate yourself and go, I'm just going to acknowledge I don't know what's going on, and when I see the live stream for the other game, I'm going to learn a bunch of new stuff. And so
that's one of the benefits of it.
It is a bit. I
get to go into PoE 2 releases with next to no idea. It's like, oh, cool. What I get to be in the player base, getting the exciting reveal again.
That being said, he's like sitting amongst the other designers. We're all still in a collective, and everyone can hear what everyone else is doing, and so you can kind of still hear stuff, and people will still ask you questions about things that you've worked on before. So, but yeah, real cool. But I know. But getting off Mirage. But I know we talked about some of the stuff in the campaign, but I just wanted to also give you an opportunity to talk about that cool in-game thing you mentioned boss, and I got it and remembered another exciting thing.
Which in-game thing with the boss?
The whole map is a Mirage.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Wait, what? That is one of the. So it augments the mechanics.
Who keeps fucking up his mic, dude?
It can augment a map boss, and it will cause it to have some. You know how like when you free an essence monster, there's effects going on. Like maybe there's fireballs flying out, so it'll cause it to have effects similar to that. So it's a little more challenging. But the upside is when they drop a map, there's a chance that map is fully miraged. Like it's got a mirage in the map that is covering the entire thing. So you get 2 maps for your map instead of 1.3 map for your map, or however much.
So the reveals keep coming. I don't know about that.
There you go.
Wild. I was going to ask that because you've got this whole like, oh, it's juicing the other mechanics and it's doubling the other mechanics and it's adding extra monsters to your map. It's like, how do you like make sure that the actual league mechanic still feels rewarding there? Like you guys are going a little nuts there. So you've got Mirage maps. There was adding supports to skills.
Oh yes.
Okay, which I almost forgot about.
The Jin coins.
Just kind of slip that in there as well.
Imbued gems.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Gems. Yeah, that's gonna be crazy.
Make that one yet. Pretty wild.
At odds with corruption. Just to explain how some of this works. So it corrupts the item is at odds with either +1 level or quality, as gems do. Because adding even a level 1 support and getting the right support is a pretty good amount of power creep. And so it being at odds with corruption allowed it to be that strong. If you could do both, it's a bit excessive.
Power a little bit.
But it isn't fully random. It will look. It takes into account the supports which can support that skill, and it can only roll in those, and also can only roll in the color of the coin. So if you're using a red coin, you get a red support that works for that skill.
You're not going to get like faster casting on a double strike or something.
Brutality is a valid support for Wild Strike. So you could get that, which isn't particularly good.
Don't use the red one on there, probably.
Well, LE damage to the tax is also red and can go on Wild Strike. Is LE damage to the tax the modern name of
Ed West? Yeah.
Yes. But regardless, like there are undesirable outcomes, but all of them are technically functional.
Okay, all right. And then there's these uniques that you can like clean up as well. You do one of those restoration YouTube channels like, I found this sword and it's like just a big pile of rust, let's restore it.
You just scrub it down with the Jin coin, get all the rust off. No, it's more magical than that.
Yeah, excellent. And I don't know if this was really shown, but there's a lot of like, is this just the campaign or is it in game as well? There's like a lot. There's these like silver Jin caches and gold Jin caches and.
That's at all points. When you're in a Mirage, there's like there's packs of enemies that are specific to the overworld encounter and packs that are specific to the Mirage encounter. They're actually different monster varieties. And when you're in the Mirage, when the Mirage enemies spawn, they will rarely spawn with a cache, and that cache is just a chest that has pretty good loot generally. Like rare items, maybe currency, maybe div cards, all various things.
Sounds wicked juiced. Awesome.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, putting some. There's so much. I love the amount of like level of detail gone in, and as you were mentioning, it's a league that is multiplying other leagues, you know, and obviously it has its own thing, and even a, kind of a cool storyline, and it's grounded, and it's got. You know, obviously a boss, which is awesome as well. But it's got the thing where, how cool is that?
Suresh is very cool.
So, oh man,
how cool is that? Yeah, let's just start the fight. Let me just rip off my head real quick.
Just turn my spine into a star.
I don't need this.
I'm gonna.
Who came up?
It's a tiny. I don't want to spoil much of the fight, but a tiny minor spoiler is when you kill him, his head lands and sticks in the ground, and then you can talk to it. And he gives like lore.
Obviously.
Obviously, yeah, it goes without saying.
But yeah, even then, it's I really it is probably one of the more challenging things. It's just like, okay, it could just multiply damage and life or drops or something. You know, it could just multiply quant or rarity. I get it, but it's that labor of love of doing a specific interaction with everything it can modify that really is like, wow, this is cool. There's so much level of detail to this and depth to this. That's that's quite impressive. But it's an undertaking for sure, and I'm really glad you guys did it. Like,
At this point, so.
I mean, I would want to do more if I had more time.
Mm-hmm. Something I've seen in chat, I'll just kind of like.
I'm gonna see what Gazzy's saying about it.
I mean, I would want to do more if I had more time.
Mm-hmm. Something I've seen in chat,
yes,
kind of
Corey.
like butt in here in between topics is Trial of the Ancestors, just kind of getting asked about. I had forgotten about it. It's been a while. And I think it was like was this the one that it's coming sometime? You're trying to.
Oh, look, it's still on the list.
Yeah.
It's not on our most recent thoughts.
This is a Steam backlog sort of situation. Trial of the Ancestors.
Kind of is, yeah. I mean, we're getting more and more of these. I feel like over time, where stuff we want to improve, enhance, re-add, or whatever. Look, I get it. Same answer as last time, pretty much. Like it'll get its day. We just don't know when.
Thank you, Pure Gaming, for the sub, man.
It requires more work to re-add than you might think, and it's easy for that to then get in the way of a lot of other stuff that we want to do. And yeah, I get it's just end of the day, value and resources, and that's it. Really, that's all there is to it. So
sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say the well of cool stuff that we want to add to the game is infinitely deep.
Yeah, it's good for that. Was Mercenaries one of these ones that was like coming back or something in some way? Like I kind of
we will do that. We will do that again. I always hate saying when we're going to do stuff because that's people want a time. What does that mean if there's no time? It's just this nebulous infinite. One day it will be here. But I still like to be clear on when we intend for something to come back or not. So yeah, we still want to do it.
Pocket for a rainy day.
Oh shit!
We'll get
There's
there.
a plugin
We
where
will
you can
get
see
there.
us build
There's
on
not too
stream.
many
That's
big
dope.
things that are like still pending that we've done before that we want to re-add. So, but just timing. But again, like there's been so much growing pains with the different 2 projects and stuff. We're only going to get more efficient at this. We've got more of the staff than ever. We're still hiring. Like we'll get there. If Octavian wants more people, Octavian and Andrew, they want more people on that for PoE 1, we'll hire more, we'll give them the resources they need, whatever we need to do, we'll do it. And we'll just keep going forward. So yeah, it's all looking up. It's all great
Clap to the
days.
channel, boys. That's a W.
I just want to say though,
Clap to the
I feel
channel.
like maybe you could get a little bit more of this stuff done if you didn't do things like make the Reliquarian. Okay, and commit to changing its passives every single league.
Okay, yes, that committing to that is extra work. But Reliquarian is really efficient because she uses stats that already exist, right?
Yeah,
like
but
we have all of these uniques.
I was talking to Andrew about this though because it's like, oh man, you actually have to consider like against the uniques that you can like double it up with against like all of the other ones in there. It's like yeah, you can make an acceptable list procedurally generated each league or whatever to like cut down on work, but you're still gonna have to like actually double check everything there.
Oh, for sure.
That's a little crazy.
It's fine.
I love having an ascendancy. I love having an ascendancy that we've pre-committed to like this is gonna change every time because it means we can do something cool and different every single time, and players will expect that going into the next patch,
And it's so just to clarify for people as well, like this isn't replacing Ascendant. This is
this is addition.
Scion has a second Ascendancy now.
When did the Scion come out?
God, like
before
18
I was
years
here.
ago,
Yeah,
or
so
20 years ago.
13 years or something probably. Yeah. So 13 years to get its second Ascendancy. So 13 years from now.
Well, 13 years ago, we didn't have any
Well, I'm fine with
Infinity,
the
mind you.
classes.
No, it's really cool because I really like the idea of it changing. I'm also looking forward to the idea of it. Let's say it's really good this league, and then people are like, no, I don't want it to change. And then guess what? It's going to
Yeah, I remember
change.
that, Lala.
And then people are like,
committed.
ruined.
Yeah.
It's killed. It's ruined.
It is good that you've like just laid that down from the beginning
Yes.
for that. I think it's probably the way
And
to go
you
about.
you just get the cool thing where you're like, no matter what now, technically, every single expansion will have a new Ascendancy class in that regard.
It's great teaser
You know?
material.
Yeah, true.
And
It's one of your days done.
but also in the same sense, if it does get ruined, as people are like, the
Oh,
next
well,
league
next
gets
league.
saved, but a lot, you can see things where maybe some leagues it's better for certain archetypes, might be better for
Yeah,
casters here or attackers here or summoners here or a boss.
Yeah, for the Theory Crafters, it's going to be like a new little puzzle to unpack every league, isn't it?
Yeah.
Even if nothing else happens with Ascendancies.
And we often do these things where we're like, okay, this is going to require work every league. Let's just double check we're definitely keen to do that, and it has to pass the cool threshold. And in this case, it's like, yep, it's cool enough. We're doing it. It's all good.
All right. So the other thing on the skills and classes sort of side of things, this time you went for a pretty comprehensive set of new skills, buffs, support gems, even some passive changes to support the Holy Warrior Templar archetype. So I guess the downside with approaches like this of doing like a
I wonder if they
specific
buffed
archetype
Dominating
flavored,
Blow.
set of
Or gave
changes
it
is
more
that
trans.
maybe some people ultimately won't be interested in it, but it seems like I think that's probably a worthy trade-off for the fact that you get a much more interesting experience there. Like I'm not just like, oh yeah, one skill saw a little bit of off or something. It's not really that interesting to change your builds.
You can be a lot more. The upside is you can be a lot more like holistic and take a broader
Yeah.
view. It's like, okay, we're not just adding this new skill that happens to fit this archetype. We're adding a handful of new skills, a handful of new supports. There's a couple of uniques that have been changed to help support this. The Guardian Ascendancy has a new pointer to help support this kind of play style, and that just immediately makes it much easier for a player who might have been interested but also wants to play a powerful build and wants to have a well-supported build to commit to playing the new thing on League Start. As opposed to if you just add a skill without any of the supporting foundation, then it's much harder. Like it's much easier for that skill to sink rather than swim.
Yeah, that's it. That's not a lot of things contributing there. Is there something you'd like to kind of keep doing, do you think, then? That kind of like, you've done it a couple times in the past, but it's not ever been a super consistent trend, doing this like archetype flavor.
It's certainly
For skills
easier
and things.
and has its merits, but I'd say we're probably just going to remain inconsistent in that regard.
Probably.
You'll be consistent in nothing else but being
Well,
inconsistent.
it's
It's good.
like for 329, and a thing that's come up and probably what we'll be doing is instead of so much a whole new archetype, it's like, let's go back and look at existing skills and how we can, instead of just numerically necessarily change them, actually rework them. Especially things like, early game as well. At some point, rolling magma becomes a little bit boring. Or has its woes. We know the deal. So being able to go back and look at, there's actually been quite a high demand for people going like, can you just change up the early game, like what we're playing with, please no more rolling magma kind of has been a lot of, and I'm sure there's some people that love it, and I'm not to say we're going to like eradicate it, but ideally for the next one we'd focus less on the whole new archetype and maybe more on, reworking some of the other skills,
sure.
but that was something on our current, list of things. So we'll see how that goes. But and that, reworking a skill can often effectively mean it's a new skill.
Like on a personal level as well, one of my favorite stuff to work on is skill and support related design. So there will definitely be more and more attention to that. Even if it's just from
we
me
don't have
wanting
to
to
patch
do
notes.
it, in an
Which we'll
extra
see
few
after
hours
this.
after my normal workday or whatever. I also have like a personal goal that every, reasonable active skill eventually gets its own transfigured version, hopefully two. That's the new transfigured this league are a step in that direction. I think they're all on ones that didn't have any transfigured variants before. Maybe there's like one that is on a skill that already had one.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that. Like, you feel like transfigureds are kind of like hitting the mark. They're like a thing that's worth kind of keeping
personally
updated.
feel like
You're
Totem
adding
go-
more. And
go
is it likely
pretty
that like new
strong.
skills come out with transfigureds right away, or is that something you add in the future?
When there's a transfigured variant that is interesting enough and also wouldn't detract from the development time of the base skill.
Yeah, that was kind of
like,
my follow-up
like if
there,
it's a
yeah.
simple twist that is an interesting one, then sure, because I think we did that with one of the wand skills in the last league that get released with a transfigured variant.
Yep.
But those are still, now they are skills in the game that are a valid active skill. Like the player might choose as their main skill, so they will eventually need to get one.
Yeah, yeah. And see, like, I guess you could be concerned that like it's eating into skill designs, but it seems like it's almost the opposite, where it's like a dumping ground for the ideas that didn't make it into a skill. You can like, oh, yeah, well, this is just one little idea for a twist on a skill. It can't really be a whole new skill, so
And
it's
like,
the perfect place for it, right?
yeah, it's also just I can't like stop myself from having a cool idea and being like, I want to do, I want to do holy hammers, but it's a big fist or something. I don't know.
Sometimes you do need to stop yourself having a cool idea sometimes, but, generally speaking.
All right. On the kind of like more balance and skill design, hand casting and channeled skills are kind of just like a rough area I just want to mention or bring up. Is it something that you're like thinking about or still kind of like tracking? I think it's maybe something we talked about a little bit in the past.
Not on the current, as a not for 328 really, in any obvious sense, but like
they're going in circles again for the chat, so
not to say there isn't something with exceptional supports that might come to, especially stuff we haven't even
anyone who
necessarily
was
thought
watching
of,
or is watching, thanks.
and this,
Their
obviously when we
little
add so much
live
stuff, there's so much
announcement's basically
unintentional
over
usage, but
now,
like,
so
yeah, I understand it is maybe a bit more
your
of a
boy is
fundamental look
outie.
at. Still on the list again.
Thanks for hanging out,
One
though.
of the dedicated QA for PoE 1 is